Hey guys! So today is going to be a little different of a video. I've done Marvel related videos before, but they were ambience videos, so if you're interested in those, go check them out. But this one is going to be mainly a soft-spoken video of me talking about Loki, reading some psychological analysis articles, probably just one, but yeah, I'm just gonna read through them and maybe give some of my comments at the end, and then possibly read some background about him from like a fandom page or something like that. But if you are interested in Marvel, interested in knowing a little bit more about Loki's personality, then keep watching or listening. Yeah, so Loki is probably one of my, if not my favorite character, he's one of my favorite characters. And I think the reason for that is because you never really know if he is good or bad. He's kind of, he's both. And I'm sure that there's some research on why that is so, I guess, charismatic. But he's got that very much devil-may-care vibe to him, where he does one thing, but then does another, and you're like, that doesn't really match up. And so it's very interesting how so many people love him so much, even though he's debatably a villain. But yeah, let's get into this article. This is by Juliann Li, and it's called What Can Marvel's Loki Teach Us About Borderline Personality Disorder? So, character overview. Loki is the god of mischief, adopted brother of Thor, and grows up as a prince of Asgard, despite actually being a frost giant. As presumable through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Loki is a troubled character who has had a difficult childhood, a lack of self-identity, and a divorce from his birth culture. He is also a wildly popular antagonist because of the underlying sense of goodness in him, despite his consistent tendencies of betraying those who trust him and being characteristically spontaneous. This case will look into the psychological background behind Loki's behaviors and explore how his actions and tendencies affect maintaining healthy relationships and living a typical lifestyle. Psychological underpinnings. Loki is presented as an unstable individual with identity issues stemming from a variety of factors. Not knowing his true birth parents, growing up constantly overshadowed by Thor, not knowing his true place in either Asgard or with the frost giants, and not having a sense of familial security. A few of Loki's risk factors include, to be frank, daddy issues, as he never knew his birth father and grows up feeling lesser than his adopted father's birth son, Thor. His relationship with Thor is another risk factor, as his thirst for power is likely to have originated from wanting to prove himself next to his older brother and needing validation. Suggested diagnosis. Based on evidence from the movies, it is arguable that Loki would meet diagnosis criteria for borderline personality disorder, BPD. According to the DSM-5, symptoms of borderline personality disorder include frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, identity disturbance, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation, impulsivity in areas that are potentially self-damaging, and inappropriate intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. To be diagnosed with BPD, an individual must exhibit 5 or more symptoms, and these tendencies would affect the individual's ability to maintain a typical lifestyle. Let's take a look at how these symptoms apply to our unpredictable antagonist. Frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. In the Avengers, Loki takes charge on his desire to rule Earth. Loki has always wanted to be in a position of power, taking action to rule Asgard or Jotunheim in Thor and Thor the Dark World. Given his background, it's sensible to connect Loki's literal abandonment as a child, which led him to adoption into Asgard, with the fear of future abandonment from the family he has come to know. Identity disturbance. Defined by the DSM-5, identity disturbance is characterized by a painful sense of incoherence, objective inconsistencies in beliefs and behaviors, over-identification with groups or roles, and, to a lesser extent, difficulties with commitment to jobs, values, and goals. We can infer through Loki's inconsistencies between good and bad that he does not confidently side with one ideal, since it seems he is frequently torn between a selfish desire for power and an underlying benevolent calling to do the right thing. A pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships categorized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. This one makes sense superficially. Throughout every movie that Loki appears in, he manages to portray someone who trusts him, manipulating his relationships and fluctuating back and forth between the good and bad side. Throughout the movies, Loki wavers between sabotaging Thor and saving him, ultimately not being able to sentence his brother to death. The symptom of idealization and devaluation can be characterized by a stereotypical love-hate relationship, and we can thus use Thor as an example. Impulsivity in areas that are potentially self-damaging. Seeing as Loki is the main antagonist in the Avengers, but comes right around and saves Thor's life in Thor the Dark World, we have established that he is an unpredictable and spontaneous character. His impulsivity can be characterized in a multitude of examples from the movies, and are intrusive to healthy daily functioning because he is unable to maintain stable relationships and gain the full trust of any loved one. Inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. Here, we can look closer into Loki's power phases, such as while taking over Earth in Avengers. He is quick to lash out with a quick temper and also takes the lives of many innocent individuals when he does not get what he wants, as this evidently affects his daily functioning, preventing him from building healthy relationships and establishing rapport with his community. This exhibited symptom meets the qualifications for BPD. Conclusions. As evident from his popularity and fan following, Loki is a beloved antagonist because many find his underlying sense of goodness the most endearing, as it adds to his character development throughout the Marvel movies. Borderline personality disorder is marked by an ongoing pattern of varying moods, self-image, and behavior. It is prevalent in 1.6% of the population and has a 5.9% lifetime prevalence, based on the U.S. Census from 2017. So that's basically the end of that article. Juliann basically goes on to talk about how, I guess this is, she's just saying that this is just a case study, and this is based on her own opinion, presented by the cinematic material, and that she recognizes there could be numerous interpretations. But I find that article really interesting to sort of do an analysis of the characteristics that Loki has displayed and see what that says in what we've studied about borderline personality disorder and other disorders, and just sort of, lining it up and seeing what it looks like in comparison. Thank you for listening to this video. I hope that you got some relaxation out of it and some interesting new information. I will probably be making more videos like this because I have a deep interest in psychology, as well as a lot of different characters. So I've got some book characters that I'm interested in talking about, as well as I want to do one on Thanos because he's also quite interesting. If you have any requests, just leave them in the comment section below. Hopefully I'll be able to get to them, or even read or watch a movie suggestion that you have, so I can see that character and see if I want to do a video on it. But yeah, I hope that this relaxed you, and be on the lookout for some more similar videos.